In the heart of Ohio lies the quiet town of Oxford, a place where the rhythms of college life blend seamlessly with the tranquility of small-town living. Home to Miami University, Oxford was a hub of youthful ambition and enduring friendships. But beneath its peaceful surface, a darkness was about to unfold. Here, young minds pursued their dreams, friendships blossomed, and love stories were written under the bright campus sun. Among these stories was one that would cast a long, dark shadow over the community, a story of love, betrayal, and unanswered questions. December 28, 1978, a date etched in the memories of those who lived through it. Elizabeth "Beth" Andes, a vibrant young woman with a passion for fashion and a heart full of dreams, was brutally taken from this world. Her death not only shattered lives but also set off a chain of events that would leave a man wrongfully accused and a community grappling with unresolved mysteries. At Candlewood Terrace, a modest brick apartment complex catering to college students, Beth lived with her boyfriend, Bob Young. Their relationship was the envy of many, stable, loving, and full of promise. But on that fateful night, the facade of perfection was shattered. Bob Young, a recent graduate and devoted boyfriend, returned home that evening expecting to find Beth waiting for him. Little did he know, his world was about to crack in ways he could never imagine. Inside their home, Beth lay motionless, her life violently taken with no warning, no sign of struggle, just a scene of unimaginable horror. Bob's discovery would lead him down a path of fear, confusion, and ultimately, a confession he would later come to regret. Despite 2 subsequent acquittals, Bob Young was never able to escape the shadows of that night. The inconsistencies between his confession and the physical evidence raised questions that would linger for decades, challenging the very essence of justice and truth. This is a story of justice and injustice, memory and trauma, and the relentless pursuit of truth. A story that digs deep into the complexities of human relationships and the fragility of the justice system, all woven into the tragic tale of Elizabeth Andes. What really happened on that fateful night? Join us as we break down the haunting mystery of Elizabeth Andes, exploring the dark corridors of an investigation marred by bias, lost evidence, and the enduring quest for closure that spans nearly 4 decades. To understand the depth of the tragedy that would unfold, we must first step into the world of Elizabeth "Beth" Andes, a young woman whose life was as vibrant and full of promise as the blooming flowers on Miami University's campus. Beth was more than just a student. She was the embodiment of creativity and determination. Majoring in fashion merchandising, Beth seamlessly blended her passion for design with a sharp business acumen. Her days were filled with lectures, fabric selections, and countless hours hunched over her red sewing table, meticulously perfecting each seam until it was flawless. Living at Candlewood Terrace with her roommate, Sue Parmalee, and later, Hallie Chapman, Beth found a sanctuary where her creativity could flourish. Their apartment, though modest, was a testament to their friendship, walls adorned with colorful fabrics, shelves lined with sewing tools, and a shared sense of camaraderie that made every challenge seem conquerable. Hallie Chapman speaking to reporters, Beth was incredible. She had this relentless drive to get things just right, whether it was her designs or her relationships. She was fiercely independent, yet deeply caring. Living with her was like being in the presence of someone who never stopped striving for something better. At the heart of Beth's life was her relationship with Bob Young, a recent graduate, dedicated football player, and geology major. Their 3-year relationship was a blend of stability and passion, marked by mutual respect and unwavering support. Together, they navigated the complexities of post-college life, dreaming of a future filled with love and shared ambitions. Candlewood Terrace was strategically located, providing Beth with easy access to her job at Red Ox Delicatessen in downtown Cincinnati and her alma mater, Miami University. Just a stone's throw away stood the old Ardmore House, a place of significance where Beth stored her belongings and prepared for her imminent move to Cincinnati. This proximity not only facilitated her daily routines but also intertwined her life with the people and places that would later become pivotal to her story. Apartment 233 was more than just a living space. It was the backdrop against which Beth's final days unfolded. The familiar worn couch, the mismatched furniture, and the sewing table where countless hours were spent, all these elements created an environment that was both comforting and reflective of Beth's personality. It was here that Beth and Bob built their life together, a life that would soon be shattered by unspeakable tragedy. Sue Parmalee speaking to reporters. Living with Beth was like living with someone who was always creating something beautiful. She had this incredible ability to turn simple materials into stunning designs. And she brought that same creativity and passion into our friendship. She was someone you could always rely on, someone who made every day a little brighter. Beyond her immediate circle, Beth's life intersected with a diverse array of individuals, each playing a unique role in the intricate tapestry of her existence. From Robert, Buzz, Call, her manager at Red Ox who harbored unreciprocated feelings, to Steve Green, the maintenance man who would later emerge as a crucial figure in the investigation, Beth's interactions were numerous and varied. These relationships, both personal and professional, would later become key elements in the unfolding mystery surrounding her untimely death. Leslie Andes, Beth's sister speaking to reporters. Beth was always so full of life. She had dreams, aspirations, and a way of making everyone around her feel special. Losing her was like losing a part of myself. Even years later, I find myself questioning what really happened that night. Oxford, Ohio, especially during the academic year, buzzed with the energy of college students and community events. The town's rhythm was dictated by the ebb and flow of academic calendars, vibrant social gatherings, and the pursuit of knowledge. But as graduation approached, the town's pace began to change, signaling the end of an era and the beginning of new chapters for its residents. For Beth, the late 1970s were a time of transition, balancing her burgeoning career, her relationship with Bob, and the looming move to Cincinnati. Candlewood Terrace, once a lively hub of student activity, now stood as a symbol of her imminent departure from the familiar to the unknown. Amidst these changes, Beth navigated the complexities of adult life with resilience and grace, unaware of the darkness that awaited her. Her passion for fashion was more than a hobby, it was a reflection of her identity. Each stitch, each design was a testament to her dedication and her desire to leave a mark on the world. These personal items not only showcased her talents but also served as a tangible reminder of the vibrant life she led, a life that would soon be brutally interrupted. But beneath the surface of Beth's vibrant exterior lay a story waiting to unfold, a story of love, ambition, and a darkness that would bring her world crashing down. As we dig deeper into the events of that cold December night, the true complication of Beth's life and the subsequent mystery surrounding her death begin to emerge. To understand the full scope of this mystery, we must journey back to that fateful night when everything changed. As the clock struck midnight on December 28, 1978, Oxford, Ohio, was enveloped in a quiet stillness. The festive spirit of the holiday season had given way to the calm of the night, but beneath this serenity, a tragic event was about to unfold. Bob Young, a recent graduate and Beth Andes' devoted boyfriend, had spent the evening celebrating his graduation. Exhausted yet content, he drove home in his trusty blue Toyota, unaware that the night would mark the beginning of a nightmare. As he pulled into the parking lot of Candlewood Terrace, something felt off. The familiar sight of apartment 233, their shared home, was shrouded in darkness, a stark contrast to Beth's usual habit of keeping the place bright and welcoming. With no note left behind, Bob's unease grew. He hesitated, convincing himself that Beth had stepped out for a moment. But the absence of light in her apartment stirred a deep sense of worry. Summoning his courage, Bob entered apartment 233. The lights flicked on, revealing a scene that would haunt him for the rest of his life. There, amidst the disarray, lay Beth, her body marred by brutal stab wounds, her neck constricted by a robe sash, and sewing shears stained with blood lying ominously nearby. The sight was nothing short of a nightmare. Beth lay motionless, her vibrant life extinguished in an instant. The room bore the signs of a violent struggle, yet eerily, there were no defensive wounds on her hands or arms, an unsettling inconsistency that would soon become a focal point in the ensuing investigation. Every detail seemed meticulously orchestrated. The overturned dresser suggested a struggle, but the absence of defensive marks hinted at something far more dreadful. The sewing shears, once a symbol of Beth's passion, now lay as silent witnesses to her untimely death. In a state of shock and disbelief, Bob reached out to his friends, James Gattermeyer and Edward Boggs, seeking immediate assistance. But Oxford, post-graduation, was a ghost town, neighbors were scarce, and no one answered his desperate knocks. With no immediate help available, Bob made the call that would change everything. At 9:32 p.m., he contacted the police, reporting the unimaginable: Beth had been murdered. Police swiftly arrived at the scene, their presence a mix of urgency and disbelief. The initial investigation was set in motion, but doubts and questions loomed large from the outset. Detective speaking to reporters: "When we first arrived, everything pointed towards a violent struggle. The positioning of the furniture, the nature of the wounds, it was clear something terrible had happened. But there were immediate inconsistencies that raised red flags. As the investigation unfolded, Bob found himself at the center of suspicion. The circumstances were murky, and the police's confidence in their assessment led them down a path that would soon become his undoing. Bob Young's life spiraled into a nightmare as he faced criminal charges for a crime he did not commit. The trials that followed would see him acquitted twice, but the scars of that night would linger for decades. Bob Young speaking to reporters: "I was scared, confused. I didn't know what was happening. They made me feel like I had no choice but to say what they wanted to hear." The legal system, meant to deliver justice, instead became a labyrinth of doubt and despair. Bob's wrongful accusation highlighted the profound flaws within the investigative process and the ease with which the innocent can be ensnared. In the pursuit of truth, the very instruments meant to safeguard it can sometimes falter, leading to tragic outcomes and lives forever altered. But the story doesn't end there. As the legal battles raged on, deeper questions about the investigation and the search for the real killer began to surface. As dawn broke over Oxford, Ohio, the tranquility of Candlewood Terrace was shattered by the aftermath of a brutal crime. The discovery of Elizabeth, Beth, Andy's lifeless body set off a chain of events that would forever alter the lives of those involved. The swift arrival of law enforcement marked the beginning of a meticulous investigation. Detectives combed through the crime scene, documenting every detail, every anomaly that could provide clues to the perpetrator. The room told a story of violence and urgency. The overturned dresser suggested a struggle, while the blood-stained sewing shears hinted at a personal motive. But amidst the chaos, certain elements didn't quite add up, elements that would soon cast doubt on the initial narrative. Detective speaking to reporters: "After documenting every detail, it was clear that Beth had been attacked with a specific kind of weapon, sewing shears. The ligature used to strangle her was a bathrobe sash, something easily accessible in her own home. These details were crucial in shaping our initial theories." In the midst of his grief and confusion, Bob Young found himself at the center of suspicion. His relationship with Beth, though loving, made him an easy target for police scrutiny. Bob's initial statements to the police were fragmented and lacked crucial details. He insisted on his innocence, but the pressure to provide clear answers was mounting. As the hours passed, the interrogation intensified. Detective Richard Carpenter employed aggressive tactics, aiming to extract a confession that aligned with the emerging evidence. To further cement their case, Bob was subjected to a polygraph test, a tool the police believed would unveil the truth. But polygraph results are notoriously unreliable, especially under duress. Legal experts speaking to reporters: "Polygraph tests are not foolproof. They measure physiological responses, which can be influenced by stress, fear, and other emotions. In high-pressure interrogations, suspects can be coerced into providing false confessions, especially if they feel there's no way out." Lieutenant Richard Carpenter, overseeing the interrogation, employed a mix of psychological pressure and leading questions. Bob, overwhelmed and confused, found himself cornered into a confession he never truly made. Under mounting pressure and facing the fear of an uncertain future, Bob made a decision that would haunt him for decades. Within just 15 hours of discovering Beth's body, he signed a confession that contained glaring inconsistencies and details that didn't align with the physical evidence. The confession detailed events and methods that contradicted the crime scene evidence. The type of ligature, the sequence of events, even the nature of the wounds, nothing matched. Yet, the police were convinced they had their man. Bob's confession set the stage for a legal battle that would span years. Despite the lack of concrete evidence and the inconsistencies in his confession, the legal system initially failed to recognize the injustice unfolding before it. Bob Young interview with reporters: "I remember feeling trapped, like there was no way out. They kept pushing me to say what they wanted to hear. I was scared, confused. I didn't know what was happening. They made me feel like I had no choice but to say what they wanted." The trials were a whirlwind of legal proceedings, emotional testimonies, and relentless prosecution. Despite 2 acquittals, the whisper of doubt echoed, leaving Bob's innocence unspoken and the true perpetrator still at large. Hallie Chapman speaking to reporters. Seeing Bob go through those trials was heartbreaking. I knew he was innocent, but watching him struggle to prove it was like seeing a part of our friendship crumble. It was a harrowing experience for all of us. Each trial ended with Bob walking free, yet the emotional toll never ceased. The weight of the false confession, the public scrutiny, and the shattered trust in the justice system left indelible scars on Bob and those who loved him. Behind the headlines and courtrooms were real lives torn apart by a miscarriage of justice. Friends and family grappled with their own doubts and fears, questioning whether the system had truly served them or if another truth stayed buried in secrecy. As the years passed, the unresolved mysteries and inconsistencies became a lingering shadow over Bob's life. The quest for truth had only just begun, obscured by the passage of time and the fading memories of those who knew Beth best. In the immediate aftermath, the wheels of justice began to turn, but the path was fraught with uncertainty and deception. Bob's confession, born out of fear and coercion, became a symbol of the system's failure to protect the innocent and seek the true truth. But as Bob navigated the aftermath of his false confession, deeper cracks within the investigation began to emerge. How did the truth become so obscured? And who was truly responsible for Beth's untimely death? To uncover these answers, we must investigate more thoroughly into the unfolding mystery. With the confession in hand, Bob Young's journey through the legal system began. The courtroom, a place meant to deliver justice, would become the battleground where his fate hung in the balance. The first trial was a tumultuous affair. The prosecution, led by the determined John Holcomb, presented a case built on Bob's confession, police testimonies, and circumstantial evidence. The defense, however, was tasked with unraveling the inconsistencies that plagued the prosecution's narrative. Opening statements set the stage for a contentious battle of wills. The prosecution painted a picture of a jealous boyfriend driven to murder, while the defense questioned the validity of the confession and the integrity of the investigation. Matthew Crenn, Bob's lawyer, interview. From the very beginning, we knew we were up against a case built on shaky ground. The confession was riddled with inconsistencies, and the evidence was either circumstantial or, in some cases, non-existent. Key witnesses, including Lieutenant Richard Carpenter, the lead investigator, and various forensic experts, took the stand. Their testimonies, while supportive of the prosecution's case, failed to account for critical discrepancies that the defense highlighted. The defense meticulously dissected Bob's confession, pointing out the glaring inconsistencies and questioning the methods employed during his interrogation. They argued that the confession was coerced, not a truthful admission of guilt. After weeks of hearings, testimonies, and cross-examinations, the jury retreated to deliberate. The atmosphere was thick with anticipation as both sides awaited the verdict that would determine Bob's fate. In a dramatic turn of events, the jury found Bob Young not guilty. The courtroom erupted with a mix of relief and disbelief. For Bob, it was a bittersweet victory, free from criminal charges but still haunted by the ordeal. Hallie Chapman, interview. The first acquittal was a glimmer of hope, but it didn't erase the pain or the doubts. It was clear that the truth was still elusive, and Bob's innocence was not fully embraced by everyone around him. But the story didn't end there. The prosecution, unsatisfied with the verdict, sought to reopen the case. A second trial was swiftly scheduled, fueled by a belief that the truth had yet to be fully uncovered. The second trial mirrored many aspects of the first, yet carried an undercurrent of urgency. The prosecution, now led by Michael Gamoser, doubled down on their efforts to secure a conviction, while the defense continued to challenge the integrity of the initial investigation. Michael Gamoser, interview. We believe that the initial acquittal was a miscarriage of justice. Our goal was to present new evidence and reinforce the strength of our case to ensure that Bob would be held accountable for his actions. The second trial introduced new elements to the case, additional witness testimonies, forensic analyses, and purported evidence that sought to strengthen the prosecution's stance. However, the defense remained steadfast in their pursuit of exposing the flaws in the case against Bob. Emotional testimonies from Bob's family and friends added a human element to the courtroom proceedings. They spoke of his character, his relationship with Beth, and the profound impact the accusations had on his life. Once again, The jury retreated to deliberate, the weight of their decision hanging heavily in the air. The community watched with bated breath, aware that this verdict would carry even more significance than the first. In a moment fraught with tension, the jury delivered their verdict. Bob Young was acquitted once more, free from criminal charges, but the shadow of doubt and the quest for truth continued to loom over his life. Leslie Andes, interview. Each acquittal felt like a small victory, but also a reminder that the truth was still out there, hidden in the shadows. It was frustrating to see Bob cleared, yet Beth's killer remained at large. Despite the acquittals, Bob's life was irrevocably changed. He sought solace in running. Marathons became his refuge, a way to distance himself from the nightmares of the past and strive for a semblance of normalcy. Bob Young, interview. Running helps me clear my mind. It's a way to stay fit, to stay normal. But the guilt and the questions never really leave me. What if I was wrong? What if the real killer is still out there? Bob married and had a daughter, Emily, who became a beacon of hope in his tumultuous life. Yet, the specter of Beth's murder and the unresolved questions lingered, casting a long shadow over his newfound happiness. The second trial attempted to address the lingering doubts and present new evidence to sway the jury. Yet, the foundation of Bob's innocence remained strong, bolstered by the defense's relentless pursuit of truth and the prosecution's inability to conclusively prove his guilt. With the second acquittal, Bob was officially cleared of all charges. The legal system had twice failed to deliver justice, leaving Beth's family and Bob with a lingering sense of injustice and an unfulfilled quest for the truth. Debbie Leiden, a private investigator for Andes's family, speaking to reporters, the acquittals were a double-edged sword. On one hand, Bob was free, but on the other, Beth's murder remained unsolved. It was clear that something was missing, and the real perpetrator was still out there. The trials and acquittals exposed the fragility of the justice system and the ease with which the innocent can be ensnared by circumstantial evidence and flawed investigations. For Bob, it was a victory tainted by unanswered questions and a haunting sense of loss. As Bob walked out of the courthouse for the second time, he carried with him not just the relief of acquittal, but the heavy burden of unresolved grief and a relentless pursuit for the truth that had eluded him for so long. With each trial, the case against Bob Young weakened, yet Beth's murder remained a haunting mystery. The system had failed to deliver justice, but the search for the truth was far from over. In the pursuit of truth and justice, the story was far from complete. The acquittals were merely chapters in a larger narrative, a narrative that demanded deeper investigation and unwavering determination to uncover the real perpetrator behind Elizabeth Andes' tragic death. But how did the system falter so profoundly? What oversights and biases led to Bob's wrongful accusations? To uncover these truths, we must uncover more layers into the investigation's shortcomings and the search for the real killer. Even after the acquittals, the veil of doubt continued to loom over the Elizabeth Andes murder case. As the years passed, questions persisted, and whispers of alternative suspects began to surface, challenging the official narrative. Bob Young was twice acquitted of the charges, yet the persistent uncertainties about his innocence and the true circumstances of Beth's death remained. The community of Oxford, Ohio, was left grappling with unanswered questions and a search for the real perpetrator. As the dust settled on the trials, the quest for the truth took on a new dimension. The Andes family, along with dedicated investigators and legal experts, began to explore alternative suspects who had either been overlooked or dismissed during the initial investigation. 4 names emerged as potential suspects, each with their own connections to Beth and Bob, and each raising new questions about what truly happened on that fateful night. Debbie Leiden, interview. When we revisited the case, it was clear that there were significant gaps and overlooked leads. Exploring alternative suspects wasn't just an option, it was a necessity to uncover the truth that had been obscured by the initial investigation. First among them was Steve Green, the maintenance man at Candlewood Terrace. On the night of Beth's murder, Steve had complained about leaving Beth's door unlocked, a detail that raised suspicions. Moreover, his alibi was weak and never thoroughly verified. His sudden departure from Oxford shortly after the murder only deepened the intrigue surrounding his involvement. Next was Robert, Buzz, Call, Beth's manager at Red Ox Delicatessen. Buzz had an unreciprocated romantic interest in Beth, a fact that added a layer of complexity to his relationship with her. His inconsistent statements to the police and lack of a solid alibi made him a person of interest in the eyes of the Andes family. Then there was Robert R.J. Villela, a high school friend of Beth with a known past crush on her. While their relationship had cooled over the years, R.J.'s sudden appearance during the investigation raised eyebrows. His involvement was never thoroughly explored, leaving room for speculation about his potential motives and opportunities. Finally, Boyd Glaskick, a former summer painting colleague of Bob Young, entered the picture. Boyd struggled with mental illness and had a complicated relationship with Bob. His odd behavior, including the ominous gift of a pincushion he gave to Bob shortly after the murder, hinted at a deeper connection to the tragic event. Boyd's untimely death from a drug overdose in 1995 only added to the mystery, as it meant his potential involvement could never be fully investigated. These alternative suspects each brought new dimensions to the case, their connections to Beth and Bob weaving a complex web of relationships that the initial investigation failed to fully untangle. Matthew Crehan, interview. The key to Bob's exoneration lay in uncovering these overlooked connections. Each suspect had a motive, a means, and an opportunity. By bringing these individuals into the spotlight, we aim to dismantle the initial narrative and point towards the real perpetrator. Debbie Leiden and her legal team dedicated themselves to reopening the investigation, meticulously reviewing old case files, re-interviewing witnesses, and re-examining the evidence that had been lost or mismanaged. Advancements in forensic technology and a fresh perspective on the evidence provided new avenues to explore. DNA analysis, once unavailable, offered hope that genetic evidence could finally shed light on the true identity of Beth's killer. Forensic expert, interview. DNA evidence has revolutionized cold case investigations. In many instances, it has been the key to exonerating the innocent and convicting the guilty. Revisiting the Elizabeth Andes case with modern forensic techniques could potentially uncover the truth that eluded investigators decades ago. Leslie Andes, Beth's sister, and Debbie Leiden worked tirelessly to piece together the fragmented puzzle. Their unwavering commitment to finding the truth exemplified the relentless pursuit of justice that defined this case. The exploration of alternative suspects revealed unsettling truths about the investigation's initial focus. By concentrating solely on Bob, crucial leads and potential suspects were overlooked, allowing the real perpetrator to remain free. Hallie Chapman, interview. We always believed in Bob's innocence, but it was clear that the police were so focused on him that they missed other important details. It felt like we were fighting an uphill battle to uncover the truth. As the years went by, the pursuit of the truth became more urgent. The lingering doubts and the emergence of alternative suspects fueled a renewed investigation, determined to bring closure to Beth's family and the community. Armed with new evidence and a fresh perspective, the legal team presented compelling arguments in court, challenging the initial investigation's shortcomings and advocating for a comprehensive re-examination of the case. Debbie Leiden, interview. Our goal was not just to clear Bob's name, but to ensure that the real killer was held accountable. Every piece of evidence we uncovered pointed towards a different direction, and it was our responsibility to follow that trail to its conclusion. The community's support played a pivotal role in sustaining the investigation. Friends, family, and even strangers rallied behind Bob, united by a shared belief in his innocence and a collective desire to see justice served. Town meetings and public forums became battlegrounds for debate, where the integrity of the initial investigation was scrutinized and the need for a thorough re-investigation was fervently advocated. Former detective, interview. Looking back, it's clear that the investigation was flawed from the start. The tunnel vision that focused solely on Bob Young caused us to overlook critical evidence and potential suspects. It's a stark reminder of the importance of objectivity in law enforcement. Time may have passed, but the pursuit of truth remains as pressing as ever. The lingering doubts and the emergence of alternative suspects keep the mystery alive, reminding us that some questions refuse to fade into obscurity. Elizabeth Andes' murder remains an unsolved mystery, a case where the truth lies hidden in the veils of doubt and the complexities of human relationships. As we continue to seek answers, the hope for closure and justice endures. But the quest for truth is far from over. Let's examine more closely into the investigative failures and the persistent search for answers that continue to haunt those left behind. Decades had passed since the tragic night that claimed Elizabeth Beth Andes' life. The town of Oxford, Ohio, moved forward, its rhythms unchanged yet touched by the shadows of an unresolved mystery. But for those closest to Beth, the quest for truth remained unrelenting. For Beth's family and Bob Young, the passage of time did little to dull the pain or erase the unresolved questions. Each year that rolled by only deepened their resolve to uncover the truth behind Beth's untimely death. Leslie Andy's interview, "Losing Beth was the most devastating experience of my life. For years, we struggled with the fact that her killer was never brought to justice. It wasn't just about Bob being acquitted, it was about finding closure for our family and ensuring that Beth's story was truly heard." Determined to seek justice, Beth's sister enlisted the help of Debbie Leiden, a dedicated attorney known for her work in reopening cold cases. Together, they embarked on a mission to re-examine the evidence and uncover new leads that had long been overlooked. Reopening a decades-old investigation was no small feat. The team faced numerous challenges: lost evidence, faded memories, and the daunting task of sifting through years of accumulated information. Yet, their determination never wavered. Debbie Leiden, interview, "Cold cases are particularly challenging because so much time has passed. Memories fade, evidence can deteriorate, and key witnesses may no longer be available. But with advancements in forensic technology and a renewed focus on thorough investigation, there was hope that we could finally bring some answers." The evolution of forensic science over the decades provided new opportunities to revisit the case. Techniques like DNA profiling, which were in their infancy during the initial investigation, had matured into powerful tools capable of solving mysteries once thought unsolvable. As the team investigate further, they revisited the profiles of alternative suspects, individuals whose connections to Beth and Bob had been previously underexplored. Each name brought a new layer of complexity to the case, challenging the initial narrative that had long been accepted. New interviews and testimonies shed light on aspects of the case that had been previously overlooked. Witnesses who had come forward years later provided fresh perspectives, adding pieces to a puzzle that had remained frustratingly incomplete. Leads investigator speaking to reporter, "Revisiting old cases requires a fresh mindset and an openness to re-examining established facts. Sometimes, it's not about finding new evidence but about looking at existing evidence from a different angle." The renewed investigation not only re-energized Beth's family but also reinvigorated the community's commitment to solving the case. The timeline of events was meticulously reconstructed, aiming to identify inconsistencies and uncover hidden motives. Armed with new evidence and a deeper understanding of the case, Debbie Leiden presented her findings to the court. Her presentation aimed to challenge the prosecution's narrative and highlight the potential involvement of alternative suspects. Bob Young, interview, "Reopening the case gave me a sense of hope that maybe, just maybe, Beth's killer would finally be brought to justice. It was a long journey, but seeing the investigation breathe new life into the search for truth was incredibly meaningful." The community rallied behind the renewed investigation, demonstrating a collective desire to see justice served. Public forums, rallies, and support groups became platforms for advocacy, ensuring that Beth's story remained in the public consciousness. Community leader, interview, "Reopening cold cases sends a powerful message that justice is worth pursuing, no matter how much time has passed. It honors the victims and their families, providing them with hope and closure." Despite the challenges, the pursuit of truth remained steadfast. The combination of modern forensic techniques, relentless advocacy, and community support forged a path toward uncovering the answers that had long eluded them. Elizabeth Andy's murder was no longer just a cold case, it was a call to action. A testament to the enduring power of hope and the unyielding pursuit of justice that transcends time. As the investigation was reignited, new challenges emerged. How would the renewed efforts navigate the complexities of the past? And what breakthroughs awaited those determined to solve the mystery that had haunted them for so long? Let's look into the intricate process of reopening a cold case and the strides made toward uncovering the truth. Decades have passed since the tragic night that claimed Elizabeth Beth Andy's life. Oxford, Ohio, has evolved, yet the shadows of that unsolved murder continue to remain, casting a long and persistent doubt over the community. Candlewood Terrace, once the home of Beth and Bob, now stands renovated but still holds echoes of the past. The walls that once witnessed love and creativity now silently bear the weight of a haunting mystery. Critical pieces of evidence from that fateful night has gone missing. The sewing shears that once symbolized Beth's passion for fashion, the bathrobe sash used as a weapon. Each missing item deepens the enigma and fuels the search for answers. Forensic expert. Interview. Missing evidence from a crime scene significantly hampers an investigation. Without these key items, reconstructing the events becomes a puzzle with missing pieces, making it challenging to establish a clear narrative of what transpired. The community of Oxford remains tight-knit, yet the unsolved murder of Elizabeth Andes casts a persistent shadow. Residents still whisper about the case, and the unanswered questions continue to stir unease and curiosity. Driven by a relentless pursuit of justice, Debbie Leiden and her team have reopened the investigation, utilizing advancements in forensic technology and revisiting old leads with fresh eyes. Their mission? To unearth the truth that has eluded them for decades. Despite these efforts, several major questions remain unanswered. How did the missing evidence disappear? Who had the motive and opportunity to commit such a heinous act? And why did the initial investigation overlook these crucial elements? Criminal justice expert. Interview. The disappearance of key evidence points to potential mishandling or even foul play within the investigation itself. It raises serious concerns about the integrity of the original investigation and whether all avenues were thoroughly explored. The unresolved questions continue to fuel debates about the justice system's ability to protect the innocent and pursue the guilty with unwavering determination. Beth's case serves as a poignant reminder of the system's potential flaws and the critical need for vigilance and integrity in law enforcement. Elizabeth Andes' legacy endures not just in the memories of those who loved her but also in the ongoing quest to uncover the truth. Her story remains a call to action for justice, memory, and the relentless pursuit of answers that continue to evade us. As we stand at the intersection of past and present, the murder of Elizabeth Andes remains an unsolved mystery, one that challenges our perceptions of justice and the lengths we must go to uncover the truth. The search for answers continues, fueled by hope and the unwavering belief that no question should remain unanswered and no mystery should remain unsolved. Elizabeth Andes deserves nothing less than the truth, and her case serves as a testament to the enduring power of justice and memory. Elizabeth Andes' story is far from over. The pursuit of justice marches on, ever steadfast in the face of lingering doubts and unresolved questions. What steps will be taken next in this relentless quest for truth? Only time will tell, but the shadows of doubt remain, urging us to never cease in our pursuit of justice. Elizabeth, Beth Andes was more than a victim. She was a vibrant soul whose dreams, relationships, and passions left an indelible mark on everyone who knew her. Her memory lives on through the countless moments captured in these cherished photos and the personal items that once brought her joy. For Bob Young, the path forward has been a marathon of its own. Running became his refuge, a way to cope with the relentless questions and the weight of an unsolved mystery that continues to haunt him. Each mile he covers is a step towards healing, yet the ultimate truth remains elusive. Beth's legacy is a testament to the enduring human spirit and the unyielding pursuit of justice. Her story is a stark reminder of the profound human cost of unsolved crimes and the importance of never giving up in the face of uncertainty. As we reflect on Beth's story, we dig deeper into the sophistication of the justice system, the fragility of memory, and the relentless pursuit of truth. Her case underscores the necessity for integrity and perseverance in seeking justice, no matter how daunting the journey may be. Elizabeth Andes' story is far from over. You can support ongoing cold case investigations, advocate for justice reform, or share her story to keep the search for truth alive. Every voice matters in the quest to ensure that no mystery remains unsolved and no life forgotten. In the shadows of doubt, the quest for justice and truth endures. May Beth's memory inspire us all to seek the ultimate truth and honor her legacy by striving for a world where every unanswered question is eventually answered. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the lingering mysteries of Elizabeth Andes' case. If you found this story compelling, please consider subscribing to our channel for more in-depth explorations of true crime cases. Like, share, and comment below to support our mission in uncovering the truth behind unsolved mysteries. Together, we can ensure that no story remains unheard and no victim forgotten.